Hi.
Hi,
Welcome to Film
to another
Critters Processes.
Processes. Uh, we are actually really excited to talk about this movie
Yeah,
today.
actually. For real.
For
For
real,
real this time.
it's one of those movies that we saw, and we both really enjoyed.
Yeah.
Um, but first, I want to start out by giving a little shout out to our local theater, the Grand Illusion.
Yes. Oh my god. Thank you so much, The Grand Illusion. They're allowing us to view incredible independent cinema from the comfort of our very own homes right now during this COVID-19 pandemic.
Yeah, and it's something where it's like if you're a bratty millennial like us, you'll be like, I can just download these movies. But it is cool to be able to be like, oh, let me like give money to this theater that I really like, and ideally would like to see after the pandemic, uh, so that they can bring me good movies that I want to see, and then I can see other movies at the actual theater.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. It feels good. It feels fucking good to still be able to give money to a theater that's closed operations right now, and a theater that I really like to visit and see all sorts of cool movies at. Which is also where we saw Give Me Liberty, a very similar movie to
Yeah,
the movie that we're
with
talking about today.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, actually surprisingly thematic. Grand Illusion's been pretty good on programming. There's some misses. You watched another film, and then when I was like, should I watch it? You were like, no.
Oh, Extraordinary. Yeah, no, not worth seeing or talking about. But it might be your thing. Who knows? That's not what we're here to talk
but
about.
uh, but the reason we want to start by giving that shout out is we also want to encourage people who are at home. Now is a great time to see if your local indie theaters are doing anything like this or need any sort of support, because we want you to support the arts and,
Yeah.
and support the people who make it so that you can see independent films without reading over like obscure trade magazines or whatever and then downloading them.
Yeah. Yeah, don't let things go back to how they were.
Yeah, let the big theaters die. Let Marvel Studios die.
Yeah, fucking
Uh,
AMC. Fuck a
and let
fuck a
theaters
Harkin.
with names like the Third Balcony continue to stay open or fucking whatever.
Yeah, no, for real. But yeah.
AMC, ya. Get out of here.
Jesus Christ. I
But yeah, let's talk about the movie.
without any, I was trying to think of another theater chain, but it's just such an absurd monopoly. It's AMC, and then there's what fucking Regal is Regal.
Regal.
Who,
I think there's a few others that are more regional because AMC like wasn't around where I was, like in like California, I
yeah,
think.
I remember Harkins.
Oh, Harkins, I forgot about that one.
Yeah. But anyway, fuck all that. Fuck all that. We're here to talk about. Sorry, we missed you. Um.
Yeah. So if the name hasn't given it away, it is about basically Amazon delivery.
Yeah. So it's a really good movie to watch right now. uh.
It really prescient. Like it's very much like it's not like like there's a pandemic in the film, but it
Right.
is literally like focused on a family where the mother and father both work jobs that are high stress and very very important and very very exploited, and literally both of their positions are now qualified as like essential labor now and treated basically the same way.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Um. We do know an individual. Who may be involved in action of some kind. I mean, I might cut this out. Honestly, I'll probably will. Uh,
We could more nominalize it. We do know. So you asked me if the person we both know who's worked as a driver in this capacity watched this film, and they have not. Um, That's what you said during the technical difficulties. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. That led to the previous 5 seconds being static or whatever. Um, they haven't, but they have told me a lot about what it was like working for, let's call it not Amazon. Let's call it dumb Amazon. And the second in this film, when he is like, by the way, you're going to need this bottle to piss in. I was like, oh yeah, I've heard about the piss bottle.
Yeah. There's two types of people. People who are like, oh, that's fake, that's not real. And people who are like, yeah, there's the piss bottle.
I was wondering when they were going to address the lack of bathroom access in the room.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we know an individual basically, like I said, who we're not going to name, who may be involved in some sort of action against the Amazon in the near future. We'll see. Against dumb Amazon. Sorry, dumb Amazon. But
Yeah.
yeah, this movie, for everything that it is, it shows like the absolute like it definitely like shows the ways that workers for these types of places are completely taken advantage of, and how things have just gotten worse and worse and worse generationally, to where people's like, like compensation and like fucking like human rights and just shit are just like barely a consideration of their employers.
Yeah. So, like, for example, in this film, the main character's like job as essentially a Amazon like company, some sort of delivery company. Um, Basically everything in the film that's depicted also applies to like Uber drivers, Lyft drivers,
Yeah.
the various food delivery apps, anything that would be qualified as gig economy labor, and that is basically your boss is an app, um,
Mm-hmm.
or an actual man who tells you to listen to the app because he has to make the numbers go up in order to retain his job, and it doesn't matter how the numbers go up; they just have to go up.
Yeah.
Uh, it all applies. It's all the same systems. It's all the same systems of exploitation. It's all the same. Oh yeah, like it sucks that you got jumped and you had to go to the hospital, but like we still got to get those numbers up.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you don't have sick time. You don't have paid time off because you're not an employee. You're a contract worker or a freelancer, or you're using the app, and in the film they frame it as like you're starting your own business. You're the franchise
Yeah.
owner. So it's basically turning every employee in the film, and this is how it works in real life, from you are an employee and therefore we have like legal, like you have legal rights and we have like a legal relationship, to like, no, you own your own business. It just happens to be that your business is being my employee.
Yeah. I thought that touch was so important, because it's all this language that's supposed to be like, it's supposed to sound kind of liberating, but it's all just like fluffy and like, well, you're technically like a business owner, but you are still like, you're treated like a lackey, and there's just like a bunch of people who are like blowing up at each other in the warehouse all the time, and like, yeah, he's like expected to use his own like his own property to complete the job, like, because the van is sort of something that he is expected to like take care of, and they're not really, like, his boss isn't really interested in helping him sort of maintain, basically like maintain it, and there's like a point in the movie where like they assume that his son like stole his keys and shit. It's just like such a fucking mess, but it's so perfectly like, because every contract job I've worked at has been like that type of language of just like, oh, like you're like a self-starter, and you're not like, we don't consider you our employee, we consider you our, like our business partner or our confidant or whatever. Meanwhile, like, you just like have no benefits, and like
It,
no PTO ever.
it is quite literally transferring, and again, this is like what we were saying, this is how the gig economy works, and the film does a fantastic job of just showing that in action and showing that in like the explicit ways in which you are sort of sold into this program, and then like the ways in which you will run up against the walls of realizing it. It is transferring wholly the risk of running a business and of starting a business to the employees while continuing to take all the reward of running a business.
Yeah, yeah, 100%.
Like the risk of, you are responsible for this property, you are responsible for your safety, you are responsible for your employees' health insurance, all of this stuff that is the literally the job of the business to be invested in, because they are the one who makes all of the money, but
Yeah,
they just transfer it to the employees while still taking all of the money that they make.
yeah, absolutely. Well, still, yeah, still seeing nothing but
And
like benefits.
there's like a small line in the film that I really love, because it like really shows that tension in like kind of a minor way, where his when the dad first is sold on it and he comes home and he's telling his family, he's like trying to boast to his son, and he's like, oh, he's like, you'll fall. They're all Irish, so they talk like Limmy. He's like, oh, your dad's gonna be a franchise employee, and he just goes like, oh, what, you getting a McDonald's? And it should, like, I like that, I love that line, and it stuck out to me because it's like it shows immediately how much it's bullshit, because the son is franchise employee and thinks like you're running your own business, and then he's like, no, I'm just going to be delivering a truck, and his son is just like, that's not a franchise, that's being a delivery driver. That's
Yeah,
just an employee.
yeah. I okay. I do want to like the center point sort of like conflict of the movie. I thought was like really really stellar, where it's just like all of this fighting between the son and his father. Just because like it really reflected the types of like I don't speak for I don't necessarily speak for you or for anybody else, but for me that's like pretty much the base of like all of the conflict like as I was growing up was just like this economic tension that was just ever present in my house which would just kind of uh arise as like extreme hostility and just like screaming fights like all the time, um which is like normal in capitalist country like it's it's normal to have these like really difficult frayed family relationships where like the I guess the both of we're like at this point we're post Reagan, so both like parental figures are just expected to be working themselves to the bone, and we're just like expecting kids to like take care of themselves, which is maybe not the greatest future planning from just like a social standpoint.
Literally raise themselves and raise each other.
Yeah.
uh yeah, that is no, that's a huge thing that I think really makes the film work, is like, we're talking about the way it talks about capitalism and stuff, but the big thing that, and this is, I was reading up on it, the director Ken Loach. I'm actually surprised I haven't seen some of his stuff. I was reading over his filmography, and I've heard of a lot of it. I just have never watched it. But a lot of his stuff focuses on like working class families and whatnot. And this film really shows you a family that at the onset of the film already has tensions and stresses, but like, manageable, like reasonable
Yeah.
family tensions, and like stresses and differences of need that are in conflict with each other. And then it just shows how like the systems that the parents are enmeshed in a desperate attempt to survive sucks everything out of them, and leaves like no like meat for those tensions to be like cushioned by. So by the end of the film, it's just like joints grinding on joints. It's just like pure tension. Every moment that the family has that it interacts is now poisoned by this, because they don't have any, there's no comfort, there's no room for them to breathe because of work.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Like it just kind of pushes them like way past the breaking point. And yeah, there's just like all sorts of like yeah, cuz like you said the regular family tensions are certainly there, but they're just so overloaded with like absolutely everything and just constantly like none of them ever having like any security in like anything that they're doing. Um and it's really tough to watch. It made for like probably one of the hardest like movie watches that I've like had in a while. It was really really rough.
It's I grew up basically like not obviously not around Irish versions of that like uh but I definitely grew up around like these kinds of like those family dynamics and like those kinds of neighborhoods. So it was like very immediately identifiable. It plays with a lot of the same themes Parasite does in that way,
Hmm.
but more of it turning inward, the way it turns inwards or the way it turns outwards. Um and like the son's arc specifically especially was like really well constructed for that because again it starts off that normal tension uh and so essentially in the film the son's rebellious. He wants to do graffiti art. He wants his parents to go back to the way things were. He's a young teen boy. He doesn't quite understand what's going on. He doesn't see a future for himself. He doesn't understand the purpose of like trying to go to college when what he sees is that like, well, my future is just I'm gonna end up like my parents anyway. So like I might as well do things that I want to do. Those
Yeah.
are those are very very common like poor teenage boy like mindsets and behaviors. And the film really shows about how it just becomes this feedback loop of like our son is causing problems and is skipping school it's essentially acting out because of like these tensions at home and our inability to be as present, but because we can't take time off from work we can't be present, so they keep getting worse because there's no way for us to stop them. And then we're also being held accountable for that, where it's like, oh well, your kid's not going to school, so we're going to fine you and we're going to make him stay home now. But then there's no one going to be home to actually like make him like behave or homeschool him because they now have to definitely stay at work in order to afford the fines that he caused by not going to school.
Yeah, and it's like, an unruly son is like a much more complicated problem that is just kind of turned into like a number. Like part of like one of the fights that they have is just like, well, if you stop going to school, they're gonna fine us. When it's like all of the tension that's coming between you and your son, or like a vast majority of it already, is just like economic tension. So how does that like, you know, how does that like instituted fine uh fix anything, or bring you closer or anything? It's literally just like this sort of punitive like kind of backhandedly classist measure that's you know that just creates more stress for them. Yeah, just a lot of stuff like that.
It makes me think of like this sort of like anecdote I remember that was going around for a bit about like the way rich people view fines, where it was just someone being like, oh, we
Yeah.
can't park here, this is a no parking zone, and their friend just being like, oh no, you just have to pay the fee.
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
that's what it is. It's like it's a fine, but it's like if you're already in a position where you can't be available for your son to make sure they're going to school because you have to work like two full-time jobs and one of you has to take the bus to every location and you're both out basically 12 to 14 hours a day, putting a fine on them isn't going to like make them present. It's going to make them less present because now they have to figure out a way to afford the fine.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. Um, yeah, really, really, all of that tension is just super, super good. The scene where they like are accusing the son of stealing the keys and it's the daughter, that scene like did make me cry a little bit. Um,
It's so sad because like the daughter does such a good job too in that scene, like of just selling of like that sort of like young kid like child logic of like this, and then
yeah,
seeing it just backfire so horribly, and just the overwhelming kid guilt of like not being able to lie about it but feeling like so tremendously guilty because it's like way it's so far outside of your hands, but you have no way of understanding that it is outside of your hands.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Like all of the performances, especially in that scene, were just like really, really, really incredible. Also, this was in competition for the Palme d'Or. Same, basically same year as Parasite. Can you imagine watching this movie and Parasite in like one sitting?
God, I can't imagine doing that at Palm d'Or and not killing someone there.
Yeah. Just immediately
I
swing on the next rich person.
Could you can you imagine being at Palm Door and watching both of these films and then going home to your fucking mansion to cheat on your wife with your secretary or fucking whatever
Being at
whatever it is
Cannes.
rich people do.
Oh my god. Yeah, going back to your fucking mansion in Holland or wherever.
Your
Um
second mansion, your summer mansion.
yes, of course. Yeah. Um I will give like a little bit of a corner to the things that I really didn't love about the movie. I will say that like the main thing for me, like the big tentpole thing that stuck out is like this is too much for me. This is too far. Was when he got jumped, like that was fine. But when they like poured his own piss on him, like I don't know. I feel like if I'm jumping someone, or just if any individual is jumping someone, you like that's still not a situation where you want to pick up and hold a bottle full of another human's piss. Uh, but maybe I'm I don't know. Maybe I'm just not like everybody in that regard.
That's chav culture. Chavs love to be pouring piss on people.
Yeah, those Irish gangs with their piss bottles. Uh,
That I could definitely concede that as like that's a moment in the film where it's the power of the metaphor outweighs the like reasonable series of actions that would occur.
yeah, like we already get it. Like we get that this sucks. He doesn't need to have. I don't know if he necessarily needs to have pee pee on his clothes and body for like not because it doesn't imbue the narrative with a sense of appropriate drama or whatever, but just because I kind of just was like, come on. um
The,
and more
the
and
most
more
I
to the
could
point.
say
Oh,
most I
so
could
good.
say in defense of it is I could see it kind of mirroring because the film also does like kind of look at like working class masculinity and the way in which this sort of culture threatens it. So
Uh-huh.
I would argue there's maybe a sense there that like these guys are assumedly stealing packages because that's their economic precarity. And so being wounded in a fight during it like wounds that masculinity as well. And that's the way to reaffirm it, which is sort of mirrored later in the film when the father physically assaults his son because of his own wounded masculinity and because of the situation it presents.
I mean,
It is still a very a little step outside of like kind of the realism that the rest of the film is going for.
yeah. Yeah, it felt like a little bit of a departure, but I guess I don't know. That explanation helps it for me a little bit, you know. I'm not gonna lie. But uh the other thing I will say about it is that I definitely I liked the structure of the narrative. Um where like I'm really growing on these types of movies that are just kind of like Shakespearean sort of like fall from grace stories, kind of like the Uncut Gems of the world. Um and while this one had like a pretty decent climax, uh it's like part of me thinks that piss scene went like a little bit too far, and part of me thinks that like the actual ending of the movie didn't go far enough, where like I totally believe that he would go back to work and like basically functionally turn his back on his family, but uh which isn't to say that I have a better idea for how it should have ended, but I was expecting something a little bit more like Babylon, which is another movie that I super love that follows that same sort of structure of just like here's all this bad shit that's happening and you don't really know why or how everything necessarily relates to every other thing until the very end of the movie. Um, because the ending of Babylon is fucking incredible. I thought that was super stellar. So like something um something like that, but it's hard for me to say.
I guess spoilers for Babylon. I haven't seen it. What happens at the end of Babylon?
So Babylon is a movie about racial tensions in Britain during the kind of like on the cusp of the Thatcher era, like right before Thatcher. uh
Mm-hmm.
and it's like primarily about these guys who like are super into like music and like musicians and partying and all this shit. Uh and so there's just like a lot of there's like a lot of racial tension throughout the movie and a lot of like hate crimes and a lot of people being chased and like hassled by cops and shit like that. And as the movie kind of builds toward the ending, there's this thing that happens at the end where like uh the main character's girlfriend's racist neighbor comes out and confronts the main character. So he stabs him and then he runs to like the concert venue like while there's like basically while there's like a show going on, and he grabs the mic and he starts being like basically he's getting chased by the cops and he runs into the concert venue and he grabs the mic and he starts singing and people are like, wait, the police are here. And like the very last scene of it is like him just being like, no, everybody stay, everybody block the doors, and he keeps singing.
Mm-hmm.
And it like cuts to black. It's like really good. So to kind of expand that to Sorry We Missed You, I it the ending felt it felt like a natural sort of ending, but it was also just like, oh man, fuck. Like it didn't it kind of petered out in a way, like where that statement could have been made more I guess there could have been more of like a punctuation on that statement of like, yeah, these people don't really have the choice, they have to work, and it's pretty fucked up.
I I so I will admit that like that ending made me uh was a huge gut punch for me, and I think it's because I admittedly have like very specific history with that specific kind of like experience of a person like, you really shouldn't go to work because you like could die.
Yeah.
And then, well, I gotta, and then they do. And I think it helps that to me, like kind of early on in the film, I got a sort of Death of a Salesman vibe from it. So I
Uh-huh.
sort of took that ending as sort of very similar to the ending of Death of a Salesman, but without Willy Loman's car crashing. In that
Hmm.
you are supposed to be sort of left with this like same tension that his family has of just like, we have no idea if he's going to come home tonight. He has no
Yeah.
idea if he's going to come home tonight, but he knows that if he doesn't die today, then he will be fired and he'll lose his job and his family will be in economic ruin. Whereas if he does go to work and doesn't die, then he still is able to make money for his family to live another day. You know, it's I liked it because it represents the sort of like prisoner's dilemma that like poverty and the intersection of that and like health and the lack of like a safety network that comes with. Um, Basically puts you in a prisoner's dilemma where it's like people end up essentially internalizing this idea of like, well, it's better for me to try to go to work and possibly die than to not try to go to work and then not die and then I get in trouble because I didn't go to work.
Right.
Um, and as an aside, watching that the scene where they go to the hospital and me remembering that the UK has the NHS, which means that I was like, oh wow, would really be even more fraught if this was in America where he also wouldn't have health insurance.
Yeah. Yeah.
and,
That,
and,
that, that
and
would
I
have
really
been a
liked
very
thinking,
interesting scene.
like very liked it in like that context too of just thinking about like, man, this system is so exploitative that even if you actually have health insurance, you could still be forced into making those decisions because you work a job that doesn't actually have sick leave because you're not technically an employee.
Yeah. Yeah. Fucking Bummer Town. um but yeah, like I definitely like I vibe with all of that. And it's that's not to say that I like despise the ending. I think it works. And uh I don't know. Like I've also been in this situation of just being like, "Hey, please stop working. Please fix your fucking family. Please uh like work isn't everything, even though it kind of has to perpetuate the idea that it is. And I yeah, I don't know. I won't go. I won't go too far into it. I just especially since it's hard for me to be like, they should have made a better point, which is like,
Yeah.
easier fucking said than done. Um, but yeah, I mean, like overall, I still like really, really enjoyed the movie and thought it was super crucial. I didn't love it as much as Give Me Liberty. As far as sort of movies of this uh genre and caliber go. But I mean, I don't know. I'm not sure how you feel
I was gonna
about
say it
about
did actually
Biop.
make me want to rewatch Give Me Liberty. I
Yeah,
still liked it a lot. It made me more interested in checking out his other films. The press thing that was attached to this for Grand Illusion, one of the pull quotes was Ken Loach is the Bernie Sanders of filmmaking, and I was like, I know what you're trying to say. That's a really weird way to say it. But it did get
yeah,
me to read more on his directorial stuff, and it's like, yeah, these are kind of like themes that he returns to a lot in his work, is like working class and like the effects of poverty on like individuals. So I was interested, but um, for those of you listening, if you haven't seen Give Me Liberty, super recommend it. We did a video on it as well. I
yeah,
guess I recommend listening to us talk about it, but it's very, very good, and I think one of the strengths that one has over this one is that there's like a kind of ensemble cast going on with it,
yeah, for sure. Yeah,
and I
like
think it's just there's more moving pieces, which makes the overall execution of the film like a lot more impressive.
yeah, Give Me Liberty feels more Give Me Liberty feels kind of like a part two to this movie, because this movie like shows us the problem, and Give Me Liberty like has these like little hints, these little peaks of like, okay, here's the solution. And like that's something that I find like really, it's hard to ask for in media, but it's like so priceless when it's there. And Yeah, I do love that. I love calling Ken Loach the Bernie Sanders of filmmaking. Uh, Lynn Ramsey is the Elizabeth Warren of filmmaking.
Jesus. Um,
Let's just call people like
let's call who's the Hillary Clinton of filmmaking.
ooh.
Unironically, I would call George Lucas the W of like filmmaking.
Oh my god. Roland Emmerich is the Pete Buttigieg of filmmaking.
I constantly forget Roland Emmerich is gay, much like I constantly wish I could forget that Pete Buttigieg was gay.
Oh boy. Um
Kucinich is the Gregoraki of filmmaking. One thing I will say about the film is that I felt like, and this is really just like a personal thing of my experience of like working jobs, is the sequence where like he brings his daughter to work, very cute. They have a lot of cute interactions. That's a very good scene. And then the sort of payoff of like, oh, you can't do that because we got a customer complaint and it's against policy, even though it clearly wasn't actually causing problems and probably isn't even against policy. It was just, well, one customer complained, so you can't do it now.
yeah.
The few thing I would say that I think would have worked better is they make it very clear like who the customer who probably complained was, because there's the whole thing where like his daughter leaves a note on the "sorry we missed you" thing that's like, oh, you owe my dad a new pair of pants, because like he got attacked by a dog because they said to put it in the shed and there was a dog in their backyard that they didn't put away.
Yeah.
Which that very, very accurate, very good point there. But I feel like that the film kind of made it clear. It's like, oh, those people complained because they were mad that there was like a note from his daughter, and they didn't like having to be reminded that their carelessness almost got another human seriously injured because they're selfish. I think it would have been way more realistic if we are only shown basically like neutral to positive reactions, and then he still is told, oh, we got a complaint, you can't do it. Because that is like real as hell, is getting a complaint and being like, who? Like, what? Like, nobody said anything to me. Like, there's no reason that like there would be a problem. And I think that, because like that's usually how it is. It's just somebody secretly has a problem, but they don't want to say it to you, so they bring it up to your manager instead, and then you get in trouble
Yeah.
for it. And that person never has to know, but they think that they did it. They did like the correct thing.
Yeah. Yeah, that shit was really good. All of the like weird sort of like rules and stipulations and like punishments that are constantly coming down on their head were like so on the nose and so on point for how it fucking feels to work a shitty contract job.
And just how disposable they make you feel, like, well, like basically at the same time love bombing you for how talented you are, but then the second there's any pushback, they're like, you're disposable, fuck you.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, oh, you're a business owner and you make the rules and you make the hours and blah 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 blah. And oh wait, we no, actually, we got a bad review because of something you did. So, basically, fuck you.
Yeah, no, I I really like there's a lot of small details and just construction. I think the other thing that's like watching a film like this and either having worked a job like this or knowing people who've worked a job like this kind of makes the first act of this film like a horror movie
Yeah.
where it's like you know what's coming. You see him having nice conversations with the people he's delivering packages to, and you're like, you can't do that. You see him being
Yeah,
like,
no.
yeah, I'll bring the package all the way up to your apartment for you, and you're like, dude, you can't do that. You don't have the time to do that.
Yeah. It's ugh. It's so hard to like to kind of watch him like try to kind of like presume the best in people and try to talk to them like human beings because I've been there. I remember when I assumed that other people were just like, you know, normal uh and you could talk to them. Uh but like yeah, those jobs completely the idea of like delivering packages safely is completely outside of the like operating procedure of Amazon or just like any major deliverer. So like, yeah, no.
There's yeah the or the or even just like how it ends up causing you to view like customers as obstacles. Like a big thing out here is you know, this sort of like you have to try to deliver it, and then if they're not home, like you can leave it somewhere and do the sorry we missed you thing. But basically the routes that delivery drivers are given and the expectations of the amount of packages they're given are not enough time for a person for them to knock on a door, wait for someone to come to the door, and then sign for it.
Yeah.
So a lot of times you'll get the one knock, they leave it on the door, and they say that they missed you. Or like
Right.
I've even gotten like knock, and then I get like an email and it's like a photo of the package in front of my door, and they're like, oh, you weren't home, so we just left it there. And it sucks because like I know there's definitely people who are going to complain about that kind of stuff, but it's also like that's literally like that the driver is not the one who's being put in that position to deliver packages that way.
Yeah, 100%. No, like that's a policy problem. Uh, you know, like most issues that come down to like frontline workers, it's like, no, this is actually a policy problem, and this is by design, and you know, like basically any frontline worker is like their position is designed as like a fall guy, you know, for the productivity that like the that the stakeholders want. And you know,
they
number go up.
exactly they're always put into the contradiction of number go up and but we have to do it this way is localized entirely within the within the realm of what the worker has to do, and it functions both in like we can state that this is our policy, and then when they do it, it's good, um, and then also we can retain a reason to fire them if we need to get rid of them.
Yeah.
uh, there's there was like that whole thing. Do you remember seeing this? Where like, and I buy this conspiracy when UPS got in like bad press because one of their drivers was shot by a cop during a hostage situation, and a UPS official company issued an apology to the police.
Dude,
Like
I
literally
remember
issued an
hearing this. Yeah.
apology that was like, "Oh my god, our hearts and prayers go out to all those brave cops who tragically had to shoot and kill one of our drivers during a hostage
Yeah.
situation." And they got like a bunch of bad press for it. And then out of nowhere, there was suddenly all these viral videos of people's Amazon doorbell things that like record you, showing like UPS drivers being like quirky and cute and like, oh, they're going out of their way to like hide your package for you. And they're like doing all these things that UPS drivers absolutely do not do because it would cost them their job because it would slow their delivery time right down.
That's so fucking
Uh,
weird.
and so it's stuff like that where it's like we need to create this image that our drivers go above and beyond, uh, but also they need to stick to like their time restrictions, which are decided by an algorithm, which doesn't account for going above and beyond. It accounts for getting the job done. And our solution to how they're supposed to do that is that they should just do it. Uh, a personal example was I used to work for. Can we say I used to work for and around when I left, well, this was like years and years ago, so it's probably gotten worse. They had us do this like training module that was like, we're having you also add to do like this thing onto your transaction, and you have to do it onto every transaction, even if somebody's just buying staples. Um, and it
Uh-huh.
was like the end result of the amount of things that they wanted us to tack onto our transactions to try to make number goes up was about 5 or 7 like different things. Like try to sell them a warranty, try to sell them this service, try to get their name, try to get them signed up, try to get their address, try to
Dude.
get all this information from them. But
Oh my
also your
god.
transactions need to be like quick and efficient. And I remember this distinctly in the training module. One of the things was like, let's go over like some like myths and facts about this. And one of them was like myth. Um, there's just not enough time in every transaction to do all of these things and commit to like excellent and quick customer service. Fact, as an employee of you only have one job, like fulfilling the customer's needs. And that includes doing all of these things and also having excellent and quick customer service. And I'm like, that's not a solution.
Yeah. That just
That is
includes badgering the shit out of someone.
Yeah, that you just told me to like you just said it is a myth that the actual physics of how time and space work will prevent you from doing this. uh no, it shouldn't. Be better at your job that we pay minimum wage for.
Oh my god. That okay. Funny that that type of shit has been like that. I mean, like so many places have just awful, awful, awful policies like that. I definitely remember my fair share. I love that GameStop. Just completely an unrelated tangent, but GameStop, which is like a horrible, horrible, horrible about that shit. Just like the 5 things that they have to say to you while you're trying to just buy your one copy of like a pre-owned Fallout game or whatever. Like
Trying to buy
trying to be
the
an essential
Fallout 3
business.
DLC.
Yeah, yeah. Trying to buy like my 6th copy of Oblivion on a different console for some reason. Um, but just their whole like essential business fiasco and like getting fined and like all this shit is uh so, so choice. Finally, like something, I don't know, something worth celebrating in all of this is GameStop
the
getting fucked.
the Yeah, the Gordon Ramsay finally some good fucking food. And it's like that's this film really shows how like the gig economy essentially is trying to like get around that by, like I said earlier, just shifting all of the risks of that onto the employee and still continuing to
Yeah,
take the lion's share of the profit.
yeah, yeah. So fuck that. And fuck capitalism, fuck Thatcher, fuck Reagan. Uh,
Fuck
and
Reagan, fuck Bush, fuck Trump, Fuck Obama,
Yeah.
probably. The 2008
No.
financial crisis. That was actually something else. I love that the film drove a direct line from the 2008 financial crisis to the current events of now.
Yeah. Yeah. That
Because
was really.
they explicitly say that like the family we are seeing was basically on the morally right, correct, conservative of center fantasy of like fulfilling the middle class dream, and the 2008 financial crisis literally ruined their life, and they have been subserving at poverty wages forever.
Uh huh.
And I love
Yeah.
that.
I
Like
mean,
I love how the film is just like explicitly like, hey, this like that crisis is how we got here.
yeah. Absolutely. And like, because that is like my family. That's like everyone's family. It was just like our all of our plans were so different before that shit happened, and like all of what we wanted, and all of that is just like completely in thin air now. um like my, not to kind of throw too much information into the ring, but like, my parents, like, retirement is up in the air, and now their social security is up in the air because there's so much instability right now, and so much, constant, uh so much constant pressure to erode social security, in any kind of social securities, that like, yeah, things like, people, capital P, people are just going to be more and more fucked, uh kind of as this goes on, uh unless we do something about it. Wink wink, nudge nudge.
Wink, wink. If only there was something we could do about. I am very quickly trying to look up this name of a book about the 2008 financial crisis, which I read very recently that I highly recommend. Oh, you know what? I know I'll find it because I tweeted about how there's a part in the book where they talk about, and it's nonfiction. There's a part in the book where they talk about with the several times over the course of the events that banks literally sent hired killers to threaten people involved with like, oh, we're gonna kill you if you don't drop this.
That's great. Yeah, no, that shit
Uh,
does happen.
yeah, it is insane how if you start reading about stuff like related to like finances or like government anything and like malfeasance, that you really only have to take like one or two steps into it before you start finding out that like, yeah, hired killers real.
Literally
Assa-
everywhere.
assassinating key witnesses in a foreclosure case because it would reveal that the banks were that the entire banking system was based on vast corruption happened. Like verified fact that it happened. The
I
book is called Chain of Title by David Dayen. Very very highly recommend it if you're interested in knowing more about the 2008 financial crisis and how it got us to where we are today. It focuses specifically on the housing element of it, but it basically reveals like here's how the economic system was built on the back of like magic card trading, essentially. And then when those cards fell, it was just like quickly offset all of the burden of costs to people who bought houses.
Yeah, lovely, loves it. But yeah, please check that out. I feel like there's a larger contingency of like hired assassins in America than there are like some like identities. I
It's
feel like
really
that's
is the
just.
gig economy.
Yeah.
It's the original gig economy.
Oh boy.
When you get the
Um,
like the Uber Black or whatever it is on there, that's actually what you're hiring is a trained killer.
that's actually where Bernie Sanders' policy failed. He didn't have any like social protections for assassins.
It's and it's that as an economy they are also like kind of too big to fail. Uh and that they are very large men who could break your neck with their hands.
And they will not fail because you are like a
And they will
twig to
not
them.
and they will not fail because they are a big guy for you.
Because they know where you are and they will find you.
Uh
Um, that's, I don't know.
who do you
That's all I
think
have to say about. Oh, go
who do you
ahead.
think who do you think Kevin Spacey contracts his kills out to?
There's probably like a company at this point. Like,
Do you
I
think
don't
they
know,
have like
like
a cuz I know
Kilazon.
Amazon well, because I was saying Amazon does a lot of like their secret like big money maker is they do cloud hosting. That's what the whole AWS stuff is, for like
Hmm.
governments and stuff. So I imagine it's almost definitely through that, like
Yeah.
Amazon.wetwork or something.
Yeah, it's something that's like, oh, here's our cloud storage solution with but like it's like shipped under the table. It's like a dark web uh like terminal. I wonder if Amazon workers have to deliver like ketamine and guns every now and then.
Oh, probably. I feel like an Amazon worker has probably at some point transported a murder weapon or like something that was poisoned to take out somebody.
Yeah, fuck it. Um yeah, we're having a normal one.
Anyway,
Uh
sorry we missed you. Great film. I think I'll probably try to check out some more of Ken Loach's stuff at some point. I've got a pretty major watch list that I've been slowly making my way through this quarantine.
yeah.
Uh, but yeah, and looks like Grand Illusion put up some new movies that they're going to be having screenings soon. So maybe we'll give some of those a little looky loo and give a little
Yeah.
talky talk about them.
Yeah, absolutely. Watch
Uh,
watch some with us. If you're in Seattle area, and even if you're not in Seattle area, you can support our theater. But if you're not in Seattle area, I mean, and you have like an independent theater that you like, check in with them. Um,
Yeah, I know. It's see what they're doing. Some other ones are doing different things. Another really good theater out here, the Beacon, opened up a store,
yeah.
and so I bought their famous Rip Bezos shirt, which has like a cinema, like a
It's good
very
to promo
like
this episode.
yeah, very good like avant-garde like logo on it sort of thing, and like it's like a long sleeve shirt, and then on the back is just a gravestone that says Bezos.
Yeah.
One of the most
There
balls out moves I've ever seen from a small business, and they do deserve your support to buy that shirt.
Yeah, yeah, a hundred fucking percent. They came out with a new shirt that I thought was really really fun. It was like Calvin pissing on like, oh, it's just like
Oh,
Calvin
I have
pissing on the
that.
text that says, "Oh yeah, fuck yeah, streaming
They,
movies
I,
at home like a fucking asshole."
yeah. They sent me a pin of that with my shirt.
Oh, that's so cute.
So I have this little pin of Calvin pissing, and it says "streaming movies at home like a fucking asshole," and then there's the Beacon logo behind him.
I love it. Um, yeah, yeah, the Beacon's great. All of our indie theaters are great, and all of your indie theaters are great too. I'm certain.
Yeah, no,
Uh,
I will say, uh, in almost every place I've lived, I've always checked out the indie film scene, and I've yet to find a theater. I found some theaters where they weren't great in terms of like the actual physical capabilities, but if somebody is like willing to make an independent theater like run and work, they almost always have like a real strong love of programming or weird or independent cinema, and they are 1,000% worth your time and support. So reach out, see if there's any in your area that maybe you haven't put off been checking out. See if they're doing anything that you can help them out with right now.
yeah, yeah.
Now
Um,
more than ever, you gotta support small businesses because they're not getting a fucking multi-trillion-dollar bailout.
hell fucking no, they aren't. Just like you aren't, pussy.
Yeah, you're getting your
Uh,
12. You're getting your one-time 1,200 Trump bucks payout, which you will use to buy fantasy dildos and DVD copies of movies that you and video games, and then that's
yeah.
it. Rent
I'm thinking
freeze.
about getting a
Rent.
bike.
Fuck you.
Gotta turn up the heat on this rent, actually.
I big fan of a friend of mine who was like very excited to give my landlord my $1,200 this month, and then also they get an additional $1,200 just for fun from the government.
Makes a lot of sense. Um, in summation, what would you prefer to spend your $11 on? I think it was 11. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I've noticed that the prices vary. It's like $10 to $12, and I assume it's just something to do with how it's licensed through their streaming, the guys that they're doing.
Sure.
Um, maybe like maybe to go see Give Me Liberty again, or half of a down payment on my Beacon Rip Bezos shirt.
There you go. Fair enough.
But what I'm
What would
glad I didn't
you?
spend it on,
Yeah.
literally any ticket to an AMC movie.
God. Yeah, real shit. Um,
And what about
well,
you? Same question. What are you glad? Would you have rather spent your $10 to $12 on, and what do you wish you spent it on, or what are you glad you didn't?
yeah. I would rather have spent my 11-ish dollars on I don't know, maybe a new shade of nail polish or something. Something to something to get me through the quarantine, you know. Get some nice colors going, maybe some home acrylics or something fun. I don't know. And I would not rather have spent my money on Prime membership. Because fuck you, Bezos, we're coming for you,
Don't
fucker.
and don't cross the picket line. I actually don't know if that's still going on right now.
I consider it going on all the time,
Yeah,
frankly.
yeah. No, same. I've been kind of doing my part to try to source anything I'm buying lately from literally anyone else.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
had to buy some shit to take care of my boots because I noticed while doing my government mandated walk that they getting a little scuffed up and dirty. So I went directly to Doc Martens and bought them instead of Amazon.
Yeah, that's how you do it. It's actually, honestly, I found that like buying directly from like people to be a lot nicer because they just have like because then it's like you can have your little I don't know. I find that like retailers are more inclined to give you like, hey, here's 20% off something else if you need to get some other shit. Whereas like if you're just doing all your shopping on Amazon, that you know doesn't ever come up. Um,
Yeah.
which I say to incentivize people to stop shopping on Amazon.
Special thanks to our patrons as always.
Yeah, we love our patrons. Thank you so much as always. Um, and yeah, coming up next month, we got Dern Gang. Uh,
Dern gang.
Dern Gang. We're gonna be looking at Laura Dern's filmography. It's gonna be really fun. Um, and I can't wait to do that. We don't really have much else.
Yeah.
We're still chugging away at mainline film critters stuff. Definitely.
We might have it sounds like our current plan is we're gonna actually shift gears because the one we're working on kind of a lot of work, kind of a downer for right now.
Yeah, yeah. It's not. It's we're really excited about it, and we're definitely still intending to do it. But it's just not what the world needs or wants at the moment.
So we got something
Uh,
a little more fun coming out.
a little more lighthearted, a little more, a little more cinema focused. Uh, yeah, and so that's gonna be really really fun. Um, anything else?
Um, I think I just found a friend's earring from like 6 months ago.
Jay's got the earring, so if you
So
lost an earring at Jay's house, then hit us up.
hit me up, yeah.
Uh, yeah, filmcritters at hellokitty.biz. That's not
Dot
anything.
.gov.
.gov. I'm sorry, I fucked it up. Um, but yeah,
and
thank you guys so much for joining us.
yeah, thank you. Have a good quarantine
Stay.
dream, and we will see you again real soon.
Yeah, sweet corn dreams. We'll see you soon. Stay safe, stay healthy, etc. Yeah, we love y'all.
Bye.
Bye.